We'll get started in just a couple minutes. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. I now call to order this meeting of the Anchorage Assembly. Tonight is December the 5th, 2023. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
It's my understanding Assemblymember Myers is absent.
He's excused.
Member Martinez.
Present.
Member Rivera.
Present.
Member Bronga.
Here.
Member Johnson.
Here.
Assembly Chair Constant.
Here.
Vice Chair Zalatow.
Here.
Assemblymember Cross.
Here.
Assemblymember Volland.
Happy to be here.
Assemblymember Brawley.
Here.
Member Solt.
Here.
And it's my understanding that Member Perez Verdilla is absent.
He is excused.
And Youth Representative Jesse Tyrell.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, we have Pledge of Allegiance and land acknowledgement. So I would ask Mr. Salt to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Volland, would you please read the land?
Yes, Mr. Chair. A land acknowledgement is a formal statement recognizing the indigenous people of a place. It is a public gesture of appreciation for the past and present indigenous stewardship of the lands that we now occupy. It is an actionable statement that marks our collective movement towards decolonization and equity. The Anchorage Assembly would like to acknowledge that we gather today on the traditional lands of the Dena'ina Athabascans. For thousands of years, the Dena'ina have been and continue to be the stewards of this land. It is with gratefulness and respect that we recognize the contributions, innovations, and contemporary perspectives of the Upper Cook Inlet Dena'ina.
Thank you, Mr. Volland. Next, we have minutes of previous meetings, items 4A, B, and C. Regular meeting October 24, 2023. Special meeting October 27, 2023. Special meeting November 14, 2023. Ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Brawley, seconded by Mr. Volland. Is there any objection? Hearing and seeing none, those items are adopted unanimously. Next, we move on to the mayor's report. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. I want to start off by thanking Assemblymember Zalatow for the invitation to meet and learn from the Houston Coalition, most of her or many of whom are here tonight, to the Coalition to End Homelessness. It was a pleasure to join the Houston Coalition, the Anchorage Coalition, and Assembly members yesterday during the ACH meet and greet and press conference, and I'm looking forward to the discussions happening this week. Getting unsheltered individuals off the streets is good for humanity, good for our local businesses, good for our economy, and certainly very good for the people that can sleep warm at night. The Next Step initiative is a great step in the right direction. The goal to move 150 people from cold weather shelter to permanent housing by the end of April is one that I fully support. A major proponent to addressing the homelessness issue is funding. I've always advocated for fiscal conservatism and protecting our property taxpayers. As I've learned, housing is cheaper than shelter. We've made good progress towards solving our city's homelessness crisis over the last 2.5 years, but we have a lot more work to do. Lastly, I want to thank members of the Assembly and members of my administration for their work in preparing for the legislative luncheon last Friday. I enjoyed speaking with everyone and look forward to going to Juneau next month to work with state legislators on those priorities. So, Mr. Chair, that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next, we have the Chair's report. So this Chair's report, I'm going to give my report and provide some time for a member of the delegation here from Houston to briefly speak to the community through the Chair's report. So later tonight, we'll be taking up budget vetoes on the agenda. There's been lots of back and forth about why and what, and I won't dig into the details right now, but suffice to say that will probably happen towards the middle of our meeting, depending on how efficiently we make our way through the consent agenda. It will either be just before or just after the dinner break. I'm glad to report that snow removal has become much more effective in the last week or two. The roads are getting cleared. There's still some ice that remains. The teams have been out full-time and working really hard. I know that the conditions of our roads and snow removal continues to be a concern for a lot of people. I want to let folks know tomorrow, December 6th, from 12:40 p.m. to 2:10 p.m. in room 155 at City Hall or streaming online. The Assembly's Enterprise and Utility Committee will be holding a special meeting to debrief on the current status of snow removal. Mr. Mayor, I repeat my earlier offer that we stand by to help fund services as needed. I know there's an item on the agenda later tonight we'll be having a discussion about. Another big meeting happening this week is a joint work session between the Assembly and the Native Village of Eklutna Tribal Council this Thursday from 2 to 4 p.m. at City Hall. For many years, the Native Village of Eklutna and its partners have been working to restore the river. We have an incredible opportunity to bring back a river fully to life that will be a true gem of our community. Not only is full restoration of the river the right thing to do to respect the vision of the people who have stewarded this land long before the municipality and the dams that we put up existed, but it's also a huge economic potential with recreation and tourism opportunities in the area. Just imagine what it will be like when we've returned the fish to that stream and we have one of the most robust fisheries in Upper Cook Inlet right in our backyard. Unfortunately, the owners group that control the project doesn't quite share that vision and is pushing forward with a plan that restores about 11 of 12 miles of the river, but they don't go the last mile. I'm just hopeful that this work session will bring the parties closer together and make clear to the owners group how beneficial full restoration will be for our community. We're committed to the last mile. So I had the fortune this week to be traveling last week now, to Washington, D.C. to have a conversation with our congressional delegation about ongoing concerns about what I'm calling a funding crisis for homelessness services in our community. I had the opportunity in D.C., a unique opportunity I had yet to have before in all my times going back, to meet jointly with all of the staff of the whole delegation, in which we were getting on a single page together collectively about the direction we're going to push. HUD has announced to us after our resolution, after our letter, and Senator Sullivan has been working really hard to communicate the importance of this question to HUD leadership. They have committed to publishing a new policy. It will require a public notice period nationally, so once we see the policy and if we agree, we'll be working a statewide campaign to get Alaskans to communicate to HUD about why it's important that the services in Alaska be funded equitably with the rest of the country. That said, this week our community is very fortunate to have a visit from the Houston Coalition for Homelessness. If you've been paying attention at all to the conversation in Anchorage, you've heard Houston is held up as a leading light in the country for developing a model that is proven to work, that gets people off the streets, based on permanent supportive housing with supports. As you may have heard in recent years, Texas is a leader in solutions, and in fact, in the last 2 decades, they've lowered their homeless population by 64%, including a 17% reduction in 2022 alone. It's outperformed its neighbors in Texas and most of the country. They've done this through the work of the Coalition for Homeless coordinating 100 service providers to pull all in the same direction. The exciting news is that Anchorage is following the same blueprint and has already laid much of the groundwork to see similar success. And I look forward to learning more from Houston, and I'm grateful for their visit. So now I would like to invite Mr. Mark Eichenbaum, who is a special assistant to the mayor of Houston, to give us just a few minutes conversation with the Assembly and the broader community. There's a little green button on that mic. And so welcome, Mr. Eichenbaum.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman, Assembly members, and Mayor. On behalf of Mayor Turner of Houston and the 100 different agencies that work together and make up the Way Home, our homeless housing response system in Houston, I want to thank you for inviting me to speak and for hosting us here in Anchorage. You truly have an amazing city that is beautiful and made up by really amazing people. There's a lot in common, actually, between the city of Houston and Anchorage. Besides oil and gas, the affinity for mosquitoes, but the reality is we both have issues regarding homelessness. But at the same time, we are pioneering cities known for our can-do spirit, where we can make the impossible possible, and I believe that you're starting to lay the groundwork to make that happen. Houston, before I begin, I am joined by 2 partners in our homeless response system, not just partners, but leaders. With me is Mr. Bob Urey, who is the recently retired former head of our downtown partnership, kind of like our Chamber of Commerce for our downtown. He also ran our management district, like PUDs and PIDs for the downtown area. He led the private sector's involvement. My salary was first paid for by Chevron. We have lots of, everything we do is a public-private partnership, and he's been really involved leading those partnerships and getting philanthropy on board as well. Joining Mr. Urey is Mr. Mike Nichols. Mike is the president and CEO of our lead agency, the Coalition for the Homeless, who's the main planning and coordination agencies, trying to take a bunch of things that are going on and make it actually turn into action and impact. They do a tremendous job, and we're very grateful for them and their leadership. The reality is, for most cities, homelessness was never seen as something that was a core service, something that cities were responsible for and had to respond to. But as the housing crisis has unfolded over America and homelessness has increased from coast to coast, the reality is that homelessness is a new core service that cities are having to respond to. Just like keeping the water flowing, keeping the streets paved, making sure the trash is picked up and emergency services are provided. Responding to homelessness now is an emerging core service that everybody is grappling to how we respond to it and how do you pay for it. But before you can get to how do you pay for it, you have to make sure that you got the plans in place and you're laying that foundation. In Houston, we had major issues. We had the 5th largest homeless population in the country in 2011. The mayor at the time said, look, we're spending tens of millions of dollars every single year. And what are we getting for it? We're not getting any reductions in homelessness. We're getting increases in homelessness, even though we're spending all this money. We're getting anecdotal stories of success. Every nonprofit parades out, Jane Doe whose life has been transformed. But we need to do more than that. We care less about Jane Doe because we need 1,000 Jane Does who can be housed and placed in that housing. It's not enough just to be doing the Lord's work. We got to do it in a way that can be brought to scale to move that needle. And so we came together as a community, government, philanthropy, the private sector, the ecumenical sector, the service agencies all came together and said, we got to do something differently. We got to change. And the first thing we said was, what are we investing in? And we realized that all of our money was going into managing homelessness. All of our money was going into shelter, or is all going into food or clothing, things to help people survive being homeless, not to get them out of homelessness. The problem when you spend all your money into managing people survive is that every day new people are falling into homelessness. And so your homeless population just increases, and demands even more money to help people survive and manage them. So how do we get people out of homelessness at the same time so that you don't have to manage, you don't have to respond in a triage fashion? So when we said we got to change things different, so we want to transition from managing to solving, we said, what are we going to do? And we let data guide us. We were going to go wherever data said where we were going to get the biggest bang for the buck. Like the private sector, we're looking at ROI. Where are we going to get the biggest return for our investment? Let me tell you, if the data said handing out yellow lollipops to folks on the streets would reduce homelessness, I'd be handing out yellow lollipops. But what the data shows is that it's housing with services is what's most effective at reducing homelessness. It's not because I took a progressive playbook and it said that we had to house people. What we looked at is we looked at all the different options and the data out there, and that's why we went that way. At the end of the day, we transitioned from being a shelter-based system to a housing-based system. We're famous. You guys are famous for your extensive cold weather. We're famous for our hurricanes. How do we respond to hurricanes? It's by housing our homeless with services when there's not a hurricane. Because every person we can get off the streets and out of homelessness today is one less person we have to respond to in emergency triage fashion when a hurricane is bearing down on us. At the end of the day, you know, we always ask elected officials is what would it mean to you to be able to say that you reduced homelessness by 5% in 1 year, or 10%, or 20%? What would that mean to you? And most elected officials say that would be amazing. But the reality is that when you put all your money into managing or into a shelter, you're never going to get to be able to say that you're getting any reductions. And you put so much money and so much resources to get the folks to a temporary place. And then you have to do another investment to get them out of the temporary place to a longer-term place, or they go back on the streets and Groundhog Day happens on an annual basis every single year without getting any reduction in homelessness. So sometimes it can be, another way to look at it, it can be twice as expensive to use a temporary managing space than just invest in the long-term location. Or the other way is you can double your impact if you take all that money you put into managing the issue and you put it all into solving it. At the end of the day, we believe in targeted approaches. I can tell you, I know at the City of Houston, there's lots of good projects and a lot of good organizations out there. But once again, we're going to invest our dollars wherever we can get the biggest bang for the buck, and that also means really being targeted. Utilizing those federal funds you get, but targeting it to one issue to maximize the impact you can get out of that issue. If we had $10 million to spend today, and we had 10 agencies up here, and we said, wait, where should we spend these $10 million to get the biggest impact? Well, each agency will probably give us a different answer. It'll probably be invest in them. That's what we'll do it. But we say, let's look at data. The only data out there, there's a lot of political theories masquerading as solutions out there that have absolutely no data to back it up. The only data out there that shows substantial reductions in homelessness is housing with services. In the very first year we started, in 2012, we were able to get more people. We used to have more people on our streets than in our shelters. And that very first year of housing people, we were able to flip that. We had more people in our shelters than on our streets. How did we do that? Did we build more shelter space to put people in? The answer is no. We actually took the people on the streets, put them into housing, and that got the number of our street count below our shelter count, which it stayed in. A targeted approach, you have so many competing interests out there, and it's a temptation to put a little money into every issue to politically make everybody happy. It's human nature to do that. But when you spread the resources out so thin, then it's really impossible to sometimes create that impact. The private sector having a unified plan, that same plan for the city, the same plan for the service agencies, going in a big way to make that visible impact that can triage and keep people out of the cold today, but also get the long-term benefits. You put all that effort into putting people into shelter, and you don't even get to count them as housed. They still count as homeless. But perhaps there's a way out there that's less expensive, where you can actually get them out of the cold and actually count them as being housed and no longer homeless. It can be done even in markets with tight housing. And so the public-private partnerships as a foundation and going through the politics and looking just to be 80% happy. The last thing you want to do is become Congress. And that's not, this body doesn't operate that. You pull a bunch of different people around the table. You ask all those people to set aside their own ambitions and causes, think about the greater good, and just try to be 80% happy at the end of the day. If we can get 80% of people around the table happy, then the ball can be moved forward. But that can-do spirit that is Anchorage is when it really matters, and that can really be helpful. We've really enjoyed being here. There's works being put in to have a plan that is very specific, time-limited, to get big impact. Over the past year, I believe your system permanently housed 100 individuals. And there's a plan now to try to house 150 folks in just 4 months. Do it in a way that the constituents can see it and feel it and see that there's progress being made is the first step into making it happen. once again, greatly appreciate the honor and privilege to speak here today. As we've been fortunate to learn from other cities, we now pass it forward and teach what we've learned in our lessons to others, but we're still learning. And this has been a mutual learning experience for us as we learn from Anchorage too. But there is an aligning. People know something needs to happen. There are some resources out there. There's some opportunities out there with the state's Housing Trust Fund, with the State's Housing Finance Corporation, with the work that's being done by the chairman at the federal level, and the agencies are coming together, and philanthropy understands the importance. So I wish you the best of luck, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And I would note on behalf of the coalition that tomorrow night, there is a community conversation with the folks from Houston in the Wilda Marston Theater from 6 to 7:30, which is next door. Space is limited. It's best to go to the coalition to RSVP if you can attend. You're definitely welcome. We want to have you there for the conversation. So thank you. Thank you. So that concludes my report for tonight. So with that, we'll move on to, I believe it's audience participation. Oh, I'm sorry, committee and liaison reports first. Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Chair. The next Community and Economic Development Committee will meet on December 14th at 9 a.m. at the Permit Center. And on that agenda, Chair, we have two items that are on our agenda tonight. That will be item 13A and 13B. They continue to be referred to our committee, and we have them on our agenda for continued discussion. And then also on our agenda, we have one of our annual items to have an update on, which is a preparation for the upcoming permit season. And there had been discussion with respect to last year, how to expedite the process, how to make sure we have an expedited permit process. But we also, one of the challenges that was identified last year was staffing, Mr. Chair. And so we're going to be reviewing that annual update at our next meeting. Again, that's on December 14th, 9 a.m. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for the presentation. Housing does work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the last Housing and Homelessness Committee meeting of the year is going to be on Wednesday, December 13th, so it's moved up a week on our calendars, at City Hall, room 155 from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. We're going to be continuing our discussion about the implementation and then eventual transition out of emergency cold weather shelter. We're going to begin talking about coordinated funding and what that looks like, and get a report from Catholic Social Services on their work at Brother Francis Shelter, the 3rd Avenue Resource and Navigation Center, and then their complex care facility. Also, members should have seen a work session get added to their calendars for tomorrow, Wednesday, December 6th at City Hall, room 155 from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. So we're going to get a chance there as a body to talk with the folks from Houston and talk to them about some of their housing and homelessness work, and I think it should be a great opportunity for us. So hopefully folks will be able to attend tomorrow. Last, although I had hoped that there would be a municipal audit committee meeting scheduled this month for us to review the annual comprehensive financial review, it looks like it's not going to be issued by the end of the year. I haven't gotten an updated issuance date, but I'm hoping that this saga won't go on past the first quarter of next year. And that's it, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Ooh, that's a lot. Ms. Bronga.
The Health Policy Committee will be meeting tomorrow in room 155, City Hall, at 9:15. The Health Department will be doing their usual thorough report, and then they're also going to add a section about the challenges they're having in hiring positions for the Health Department. We're also going to have Julia Louie from Volunteers of America and Allison Keir from Covenant House, I hope that's right, to discuss the uptick in fentanyl overdoses with youth in town. And the Covenant House has been seeing 3 to 5 overdoses a week. And they're going to talk about some of the challenges they're having with getting Medicaid to help with services. So you are welcome to attend. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Bronga. Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, thanks. I'll keep it quick since the chair already mentioned it, but I'm going to make one more quick plug for the Enterprise and Utility Oversight Committee meeting tomorrow, where we're going to be going over the city's response to the recent snow event. We're hoping to hear from the administration, street maintenance, and then also DOT, talk about what worked, what didn't, and figure out what steps, if any, we need to take to improve our plowing going forward. So tomorrow at 12:40 p.m. at City Hall, or you can also tune in online if you'd like.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Ms. Brawley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few brief updates. First, Budget and Finance Committee, the December 21st committee meeting has been canceled. There are no additional meetings planned for 2023. However, if there's any time-sensitive business, of course, there may be one scheduled. Our next meeting will be Thursday, January 18th, 2024. For Legislative Committee, the next and last meeting of the year will be Wednesday, December 13th, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. in City Hall, room 155. We will hear a briefing from the staff of our federal lobbying firm, Blank Rome, on federal issues such as the port funding, federal budget, and other updates of interest to the municipality. We are also working to schedule regular meetings in the first half of 2024 during legislative session. We do actually have one scheduled for, I believe it's Wednesday, January 16th, or 17th, I'm sorry, and I'll announce that again next month. And then in terms of Alaska Municipal League, myself and Mr. Rivera are the liaisons. So we'll come to this shortly, another item, but just want to say personally, welcome to all of the local governments and folks who have come from around the state, as well as anybody flying in to Alaska for the conference. That includes mayors, city councils, assembly members, clerks, attorneys, municipal managers, and other staff who really work to keep our municipalities around the state running. And so just to remind folks, the conference itself, the main sessions are tomorrow and Thursday, and then there's a business meeting on Friday right across the street from City Hall in the Denina Center. And I believe that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Volland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing to report.
Thank you, Mr. Cross.
Yeah, the Public Safety Meeting of the Whole, the December 7th meeting was canceled due to multiple scheduling conflicts. The next meeting is scheduled for January 3rd. We may do a makeup one in between there, but that's all, Chair. Thank you.
January 3rd is a bold choice. Mr. Salt.
Just briefly, AEDC will be meeting tomorrow from 8:30 to 10:30. And then also just a public service announcement. If anyone's here for the STR AO, that's going to be postponed until January. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tyrell.
Yes, I look forward to the upcoming joint school board and assembly meeting, which will be taking place in the ASD Education Center at 9 a.m. on Friday. So I encourage all who can attend to.
All right, thank you. So now we'll go to the addendum to the agenda. So before we get to the addendum, we're going to address the late on the table items, which incorporate any late on the table items into the agenda. So we have 5 items. 3 of them are new. 2 of them are supplemental. So the 3 new items are all ordinances, so we're going to hew to our standard practice. I'll read the title, ask for a motion, a second, and a third. And then the last 2 will be supplemental. I'll just read them. So item 10G11AO 2023 unnumbered, an ordinance of the Anchorage Assembly amending Anchorage Municipal Code to add new section 26.30.025 to establish an official policy for the restoration of the Eklutna River subject to the 1991 Fish and Wildlife Agreement with the Eklutna Power Purchasers, State of Alaska, and federal government. Is there a motion?
Move to introduce.
Second.
Third.
Moved by Ms. Delatil, seconded by Member Volland, third by Ms. Brawley. So that item will be on the agenda for the meeting of December 19th. Next, we have item 10G12, AO 2023 unnumbered, an ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified voters of the municipality of Anchorage, Alaska, the question of the issuance of not to exceed $5,900,000 of general obligation bonds of the municipality of Anchorage to pay the cost of access improvements in the Chugach State Park Access Service area, and the question of an increase in the municipal tax cap limitation to pay associated operations and maintenance costs in the Chugach State Park Service area at the election to be held in the municipality on April 2nd, 2024, and approving and adding additional projects to the 2024 CIB to include the Chugach State Park Access Service Area projects. Is there a motion?
Move to introduce and set the public hearing for January 9th.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Zalatal, seconded by Member Vaughn. Is there a third? Third by Ms. Brawley. Public hearing set January 9. Last new item is it will be 10G13, ordinance number 2023 unnumbered, an ordinance of the Anchorage the Anchorage Assembly amending Anchorage Municipal Code, Section 2.30.085, subpoena powers. Is there a motion?
Move to introduce.
Second.
Third.
Moved by Ms. Zalatil, seconded by Ms. Brawley, and third by Mr. Volland. And that item is set for public hearing on the 9th of January. So the next two items, I just need to read. They're supplemental items. It's 13C6, AO 2023-114, S1, an ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified voters of the municipality of Alaska the question of issuance of not to exceed $9 million of general obligation bonds of the municipality of Anchorage to pay the costs of an area-wide public restroom project, and the question of an increase in the municipal tax cap limitation to pay associated operations and maintenance costs of the election to be held in the municipality on April 2nd, 2024, and approving and adding a project to the area-wide 2024 CIB to include the public restroom project. And that also comes with 10C7, Assembly Memorandum 951-2023. And the final item for being laid on the table is item 14B2, AO 2023-125S, an ordinance of the Anchorage Assembly amending Anchorage Municipal Code 8.30, offenses against public order, to expand the scope of criminal activity punishable as an election violation and to insert a new section 8.30.190 codifying the offense of tampering with a public record in the third degree. So that is all of our laid on the table items. So I'd like to ask for a motion to incorporate the addendum as printed and distributed and laid on the table items.
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Vaughn, seconded by Ms. Brawley. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the addendum has been, we have incorporated the addendum as printed and laid on the table. So now I would like to move to what I tried to jump to before, appearance requests. We have 3 appearance requests tonight, which is how many we're able to grant in any given meeting. So we will be hearing from first Mr. Aleva. Welcome, Ron. Please state your name. What part of town you're from. You'll have 3 minutes, and the mic is off.
All right. Well, good evening. My name is Ron Aleva, 50-year resident. I reside in Rogers Park, have business properties in Fairview and adjacent property owner to Brother Francis Shelter downtown. Represented by all of you and this administration. I'm here tonight to request the purchase of my property and compensation that I've been shorted on the first purchase by one of the utilities of this body. I stand before you to discuss 3 critical issues related to my property and the economic challenges I have endured, largely due to your actions and inactions by the municipality. The fulfillment of the promise to buy my property did not take place and must be honored. Located at 3rd and Ingra, adjacent to the Brother Francis, it's a tragedy that this value to the community is undeniable. As a resource location for homeless services, especially job training and employment. The compensation I seek is for economic loss. Should the municipality not choose to proceed with the purchase, I propose a fair alternative. Give me the difference of the gap that they said they would make up on the second purchase. I sent you all email, I have a handout. The financial disparity has significantly impacted me, and it's only fair the municipality address these issues. The difference was promised to be made up on the second purchase. It didn't happen. The purchase didn't happen. I'm entitled to the difference. In addressing the economic interference, and I request a waiver of the penalty imposed on my second half taxes. as these were economic decisions that eschewed my ability to perform economically. And it's based on the fact that we requested, myself, to abate down there, whether it be the Native Hospital, Carlick Street, Latouche. You didn't do it. But you did it at Cuddy Park because some sort of concert association gave you $25,000. Well, I'm giving you $70,000, and you did nothing. So you should make sure that those situations are taken care of and I'm treated fairly. Since I only have 15 seconds, 10, with respect to recognizing Palestine, I would like to say as a humanitarian, what's happening to Gaza is disgraceful and on the level of war crimes. Do you have any questions?
Please, clapping is not in order.
Do you have any questions?
I don't
I'm
see-
entitled to that money.
Thank you, Ron. I don't
Pass
see
an
it on the queue.
ordinance and give me those monies so I can survive.
Thank you. So next, we will hear from Jasmine Smith. Welcome. Again, please state your name, what part of town, if you'll pull that mic down.
He says, say my name again?
Yeah, just for the record.
Jasmine Smith. Okay, got some notes. Good evening, my name is Jasmine Smith, and I am here in my capacity as the Mountain View Community Council President and as one of the members of the District 1 Community Council Leadership Task Force that was created a few months ago in response to the issue with homelessness here in Anchorage. And I'm just going to say a few words about our experience, what we're kind of working on, and the importance of having positive solutions. So first and foremost, I always tell people to remember that the path to homelessness is not as far away as it seems, and anybody in theory can be 1 to 2 paychecks away from homelessness. Whether you are a renter, which makes that path a little bit shorter, or a homeowner, which makes that path longer. And COVID and economics and just our city in general has shown us that anyone can be susceptible to it. And as we think about solutions, it's important to have collaborations, not just with service providers and nonprofits, but as neighbors and business owners and concerned citizens as well. And that's why when we got the call from the community council president of downtown, Ms. Sylvia, we were excited to be able to work together, even though our neighborhoods seem different, even though we are in various levels of how we are being impacted by having unhoused neighbors and all that comes with homelessness, we were still able to come together and create suggestions, recommendations, and a potential path forward by being in solidarity with one another. And in that process, we had some tough times because all of our neighborhoods are very different, and we joked that it felt like a United Nations of neighborhoods. Because although we were all impacted significantly, we had different lenses and lived experiences that resulted in how we came about that conversation. And so what I wanted to share today was saying, if we can come together and come with solutions and have a shared document and a vision and have resolutions, I am confident the Assembly and the administration could do the same as well. I know that we have the task force and the Coalition for Homelessness, and I just always mention that it takes more than just nonprofit organizations and the typical service providers and medical professionals. It takes neighbors, it takes businesses, and it also takes concerned citizens, and everyone has a shared responsibility and should be invested in what's happening to our city. And even though it feels like homelessness is new and it just popped up, as we all know, it's not new. It's just at a level where we can't deny it anymore. And now you're starting to see it in places that you told yourself it shouldn't be. But it really shouldn't be in anyone's neighborhood and not one responsibility. And so in closing, we're here to say that we did create a document which my committee member from Fairview will talk more about and share himself, and just say that Collaboration is key, setting differences aside is key, having good ideas and being innovative and thinking outside the box and bringing as many diverse voices as possible to the table is necessary in order to have a big impact on supporting our unhoused neighbors and determining what's causing our housing shortage and how we can ensure we never have numbers like this again. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kemplin. So my previous instructions to Sylvia were not accurate. As representatives of the Community Council, you'll have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much.
I may regret saying that, Ellen, but you have that as a right under the code, so welcome.
Okay, great. Hello, I'm Alan Kemplin, and I'm president of the Fairview Community Council and a member of the group of Assembly seat for the downtown area community councils. And so there's 7 of us, and we all got together, a couple months ago, trying to wrestle to the ground what is going on with our community. And we're speaking, we come at it from the grassroots, right? We're not, certainly we're not homeless professionals, we're not housing professionals, we're just regular people trying, to look out for our neighborhoods the best we can. And, but one of the things that we've noticed, our neighborhoods are having a tough time. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And when we see the discussions, about, the issue of homelessness, it just seems that the neighborhoods are not as engaged at the table as they could be. And so I want to applaud the chairman in his report about his work in Washington, D.C., and the conversations with the delegation about future HUD monies. I think that's fantastic. Kudos to you. And I think that it was great to hear about from the gentleman in Houston and what they are doing, in terms of, housing, and services. But it was interesting that, housing and services didn't have any discussion about, the neighborhoods. So, and this is really where we're coming from. And because in our document that we put together, I think it's a good document. Everybody's got, a copy of it so that you can, look at it at your leisure. So call to action, from District 1 leadership. We got some good things in there, and I think the key thing is that I want to echo what Jasmine said about working together. It is important. It's important for the administration, the mayor, to work, with the assembly, and the assembly to work with the administration and the mayor. And the reason why I'm saying that is we're one city, we're one community. We're all in this together, and so we've got to act like we're in this together. And the reason why, particularly, is about the money, right? Now, I have a particular perspective, because I spent 4 years in the legislature, right? And so spending those 4 years in the legislature, you get an experience of seeing, communities from across the state and representatives from across the state. One of the key things that I want to point out, that the rest of the state loves it when Anchorage can't get its act together. I'm just saying, when the administration and the assembly are at odds with one another, you don't come down Juneau with a united front. You're picked apart. Southeast, the interior, they just eat our lunch, right? It's scarce resources, and they see us split, and they get the resources. So it's really important. So that's one point I wanted to make. Other point I wanted to make was that the gentleman from Houston had a really good, important point, and that was about, data. And good decisions is based upon data. But one of the things you'll notice is that there's very little data on misdemeanor violations particularly, as it results to, small property crimes, those type of, parts of the municipal code that deal with neighborhood impacts. We're just not collecting the data. And so if you don't collect the data, then they must not exist, right? So I would encourage, folks to really be thinking about the data. And we address that in our report, the importance of data collection, but it's also important to look at we have a number of, key action items in there that, really we encourage you to look at, and specific action plan to the legislature, a database plan. We really like tiered level of services, and
Hold on.
the services.
There are two people in the queue, myself is one. Mr. Cross, you can start.
Yeah, recently, there's been,
Can we please pause the stream?
Solidarity with Palestinian people. A resolution to express support for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in occupied Palestine and for the delivery
You're out of order, sir.
between October 7th and December 4th.
Please come to order.
Armed violence has claimed the lives of over 15
You are creating a disturbance.
nearly half of whom are children. And whereas
If you continue to create this disturbance, you'll be asked to leave.
dropped 10,000 bombs on Gaza,
If you do not comply, you may be arrested.
square mile of Gaza.
Security, please remove him.
Thousands of lives are at imminent risk without an immediate and permanent ceasefire, restoration of basic necessities, and delivery of adequate humanitarian aid. Without delay to the Palestinian people.
So I will say that Mr. Patterson, please stand. Mr. Patterson has applied to be heard under an appearance request. This meeting was full. Please come back to hear from him on the meeting of the 19th, because that's when it will be granted. I know you didn't, but I'm just saying this group and your message is set up for that time. And so please welcome back at that time if you want to be heard on this subject. So, Mr. Cross.
thank you. I know that there's been discussions of potentially opening up a warming shelter in Fairview to deal with the cold weather issue. I'm just curious if the Fairview Community Council has weighed in on this, if they've had any considerations, or what your point of view is on that. Thank you.
Our homelessness committee has had a meeting with the sponsor of the shelter. We raised some significant concerns, particularly from an operational perspective. We have a meeting scheduled for this coming Thursday with the sponsor, and where we're going to be discussing how they propose to address the concerns, of the community.
Okay, thank you. So just to follow up, you guys haven't made a stance yet. You're just looking to make sure your concerns are being resolved?
We have not come to closure on the stance yet. We want to make sure that there's, we like process.
So I'm going to interrupt here, guys, folks, team. Everyone's starting to get in the queue, and I'm afraid this could be the whole subject of the next Housing and Homelessness Committee. And so if comments are brief or questions are brief, fine, but let's not use this as a meeting of the Housing and Homelessness Committee. So there are lots of folks, I had myself, I'm going to step back and just say the misdemeanor issues you mentioned, if people don't call and make reports, then of course the data doesn't get in there, and I know how frustrating that is. And please come tomorrow night and speak with Houston, because they have a perspective on the issues you talk about, the neighborhoods and the issues that were mentioned that you said they didn't talk about. It's just because there's limited time, but they did mention it last night. And so I think if you can come tomorrow, it's from 6 to 7:30, I believe, right here in the William Marston Theater, there's going to be an open forum to speak with the folks from Houston. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep. All right, next on the agenda, we have our addendum to the agenda. So before, I'm sorry, the consent agenda, I'm on the wrong page. the consent agenda. The consent agenda are items number 10A through 10F and are typically routine or non-controversial items such as bid awards, new business, information and reports, and ordinances and resolutions for introduction. The items on the consent agenda may be passed or approved or accepted by the Assembly by a single vote on a motion to approve the consent agenda. Prior to approval, items may be pulled by an Assembly member for discussion and separate vote on each of those items. Under the Assembly Rules of Procedure, all ordinances and some resolutions will have an opportunity for a public hearing at a future date. Now I'll go down the dais and we will identify items to be pulled. Mr. Salt.
No items.
Mr. Cross.
No.
Mr. Walland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 10D16.
Thank you. Anything else?
No other
All
items,
right.
thank you.
Ms. Brawley.
Yeah, thank you. I have 10A1, 10B4, 10D1, 10D6. We already pulled 10D16, 10E1, 10E5, and 10G1.
All right, Ms. Salatil. 10A2. So 10A2, I assume you're reading that tonight. Mr. Johnson.
No items.
Ms. Bronga.
I'd like to pull 10D12.
All right, Mr. Rivera.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My items have been pulled.
Mr. Martinez.
I believe my item 10A2 has been pulled.
Thank you. So I'll quickly go through the agenda. We have item 10A1 by Ms. Brawley, 10A2 by Ms. Salatil, 10B4 by Ms. Brawley, 10D1 by Ms. Brawley, 10D6 by Ms. Brawley, 10D12 by Ms. Bronga, 10D16 by Mr. Volland, 10E1 by Ms. Brawley, 10E5 by Ms. Brawley, and 10G1 by Ms. Brawley. Did I miss anything? All right. So now I would like to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda minus the pulled items.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Volland, seconded by Ms. Brawley. I'd like to ask for unanimous consent. Is there any objection? Hearing and seeing none, the consent agenda has now been adopted. For the public's information, the Assembly has now passed or accepted all items in 10A through 10F, other than the items that were just pulled, which we'll take up next, or that have been introduced for future public hearing, which are all the items in 10G. If you're here to see action on those items listed on the consent agenda that were not pulled, those items have been passed or accepted. Now we move on to the next section of our agenda. And this is the one section of the agenda where clapping is in order, and that is when we celebrate individuals who've made contributions to our community or long-term service. So next we have item 10A1.
Mr. Chair, I do not believe that the individual accepting this is here yet, so if we could move
to 10A2?
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right, so we'll start with 10A2. 10A2 is Resolution AR 2023-416, a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly honoring Alaska trailblazer Vic Fisher on the occasion of a legendary life well lived and recognizing his dedication to the people of Anchorage and all of Alaska. What's the will of the body?
Move to approve. Second.
Moved by Ms. Zalatel, seconded by Ms. Brawley. I'd like to ask for unanimous consent. Is there any objection? Hearing and seeing none, that item is adopted. Who is reading and who is presenting?
I am reading, Chair. Mr. Volan is presenting.
All right, so would you like to come on down, Ms. Angvik, Jane, and Mr. Martinez, you have the
A resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly honoring Alaska trailblazer Vic Fisher on the occasion of a legendary life well lived and recognizing his dedication to the people of Anchorage and all of Alaska. Whereas Vic Fisher was born in 1924 in Berlin, Germany, and spent his childhood there and in the Soviet Union, growing up in the shadow of Hitler and Stalin. In 1939, with the assistance of First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, the Fisher family escaped Russia, crossing the Atlantic and arriving in New York City. And as quickly as possible during World War II, he returned to Europe as an enlisted soldier in the United States Army. And Whereas, after serving with the United States Army during World War II, Vic graduated from the University of Wisconsin and earned a master's in planning from MIT before moving to Alaska, where he became well known for his energy, intelligence, kindness, and endless optimism. And whereas after arriving in Alaska in 1950, Vic served as the territory's first professional planner, designation of town sites for the Bureau of Land Management. He was involved in the first meeting of the Alaska Municipal League, originally called the League of Alaska Cities, and soon began advocating for statehood. And whereas from 1951 to 1955, Vic served as the first City of Anchorage Planning Director, during which time he helped ensure the Delaney Park Strip remained undeveloped. He helped enlarge the City of Anchorage through annexation, created the first area-wide recreation plan, and helped acquire land for Chester Creek Greenbelt and the Westchester Lagoon, where thousands of residents and visitors recreate and commute every day. And whereas in 1955, Vic was one of the youngest of 55 delegates selected for the Alaska Constitutional Convention, where he was instrumental in drafting the state's constitution and took a key role in writing the local government article of the Constitution that created the unique system under which the municipality of Anchorage exists, with maximum local control of decisions and no county-level government, a design that struck a critical balance between effective, coordinated regional governance and preserving Alaskans' ability to make decisions about their own communities. Alaska's Constitution has since been used as a model document nationally and internationally, and whereas recognized for insights into metropolitan governance when creating Alaska's Constitution, Fisher worked at the newly created U.S. Housing and Home Finance Agency, later called HUD, under the Kennedy administration. In this national position, he coordinated reconstruction after the devastating 1964 Great Alaska earthquake. And whereas from 1981 to 1987, Vic served as an Alaska state senator representing downtown Anchorage, where he worked to pass many pieces of legislation and projects benefiting the municipality, including securing funding to build an abused women's shelter in Anchorage and creating the hold harmless provision in the Alaska Permanent Fund dividend, which prevents low-income Alaskans from losing public assistance benefits because of receiving a dividend. And whereas Vic's lifelong passion for education led him to serve as the first director of the University of Alaska's Institute for Social and Economic Research, where Fisher cultivated a research institution that has made innumerable scholarly contributions to the understanding of Alaska's peoples, economy, and natural resources. And whereas Fisher, who immigrated from Russia, strongly supported good U.S. relations with his home country and worked to establish the University of Alaska's America-Russia Center, where he created myriad links between Anchorage and Russian Far East. And whereas Vic Fisher, a father of Alaska statehood and the last surviving Alaskan constitutional delegate, died peacefully at his home at the age of 99. And now, therefore, the Anchorage Assembly honors Vic Fisher for an extraordinary life of civic engagement, dedicated to the principle that every person has both the power and the obligation to make the world a better place, and recognizes the immense contributions he made to this great land, passed and approved by the Anchorage Assembly this 5th day of December, 2023.
Members of the Assembly, Mayor Bronson, I am honored to be here on behalf of my husband, Vic Fisher. You have been kind and generous in your words. He loved local government. He really had the opportunity to help shape what we have in our capacity to have a home rule municipality, which is the same tool that they use for a home rule municipality on the North Slope Borough, with a completely different kind of government. or in Southeast where they're dealing with forestry issues and fishery issues. So he thought that creating a regional government structure that allowed maximum flexibility for communities to be able to decide the kind of government they want was really important. He also had a very strong feeling about making sure that the government was never in a position to harm individual rights. So for example, one of the things that he got to do in the Territorial House of Representatives, the last Territorial House of Representatives of the state of Alaska, was co-sponsor the bill to eliminate the death penalty, because he didn't think that the government had the right to kill people. You have the right to remove dangerous people and put them in jail. But having grown up in an environment where the government of Germany and the government of Russia killed millions and millions of citizens, he has a very strong opinion about the right of the individual not to be killed by their own government. He also had great opportunity to be able to work with people across the board in Alaska. And so one of his joys was being able to travel to rural Alaska and meet the people who are creating governments there that are also going to be able to help them continue their subsistence lifestyles as well as manage their own resources. So on behalf of our family, I would like to say that Vic would like this. He's really devoted to local government. He thanks you for your service, and he thanks all the people who actually work to make our communities healthier, stronger, and better places for families to live. Thank you.
So since we just had an opportunity for an amazing brief civic lesson, we have a tradition here to invite students who are here on behalf of class to please rise and come forward and introduce yourself. If there are any students here from their classes, I see you there. We'd like you to come forward and say hello to everybody. I know it's a little bit of pressure, but please. And please state your name and what school you're from and what your class is.
Hi, my name is Chase Clark. I am a senior at Service High School, and I'm here on behalf of Service Seminar, U.S. Government.
Thanks for being the brave first one.
My name is Tyler Davis. I'm also from Service High School, and I'm a senior, a part of the seminar program and U.S. Government.
I feel like he's been here.
Welcome.
My name is Declan Sorich. I am also here as a senior from the seminar program at Service, the U.S. Government class.
Welcome.
I'm Mayor Hartman. I'm also here from Seminar from Service. Thank you, guys.
Welcome.
My name is Maddie Renard. I'm also part of the seminar program at Service for Government class.
Thank you. Welcome.
My name is Ayla Bundalan, and I'm also here for the same reasons.
Welcome.
My name is Georgia Lawton. I'm also from Seminar.
Welcome.
My name is Carly Ellis, and I'm also here for the same reasons.
Welcome.
My name is Brandon Honeman, and I'm also here with the Service Seminar Government class.
Welcome.
My name is Savannah Alexander, and I'm with Chugiak for my government class.
Welcome.
My name is Haley Vitt, and I'm also from Chugiak for the U.S. Government class.
Welcome.
My name is Ali Anschutz, and I'm also here for Chugiak High School's government class.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Jessica Jensen, and I'm also from Chugiak's U.S. Gov class.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Kenyon Dexter, and I'm also here for Chugiak's U.S. Gov class.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Romeo Meza, and I'm here from the Chugiak Government class.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Brady McCormick, and I'm also here for Chugiak's Government class.
Welcome.
I'm Elena, and I'm here for the Chugiak government class.
Welcome.
I'm Allie, and I'm here for Chugiak's government class.
Welcome.
Christopher Michael, Chugiak's government class.
Welcome.
I'm Noel from Chugiak's government class.
Welcome.
My name is Joseph, and I'm from Service High School, government class.
I'm Jenny from Service.
Thank you. Welcome all for coming. I am assuming most of you, this is your first time experiencing your local government in session. So welcome, and I hope you heard the previous item because not only was Vic the last Alaskan constitutional convening delegate, he was the last American constitutional convening delegate. So with that, thank you for coming Jane. And Jane is an August member of this body from time past as well, representing the downtown, and has made tremendous contributions on her own. So thank you very much for being here. So next we have item 10A1, Resolution AR 2023-402, a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly welcoming Alaska Municipal League members and affiliates to AML's 73rd Annual Local Government Conference, December 6th to the 8th, 2023. What's the will of the body?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Rivera, seconded by Ms. Brawley, and I would like to ask unanimous consent. Is there any objection? Hearing and seeing none, that item has been approved. So I have, I should say, who's reading?
I'll be reading.
Ms. Brawley is reading. Mr. Rivera, you're presenting. Come on up, Nils. And welcome. You have the floor.
A resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly to welcome Alaska Municipal League members and affiliates to AML's 73rd Annual Local Government Conference on December 6th through 8th, 2023. Whereas the municipality of Anchorage extends a warm welcome to Alaska Municipal League members and affiliates attending the 2023 Alaska Municipal League Annual Local Government Conference scheduled for December 6th through 8th, 2023. And whereas the Alaska Municipal League, or AML, was originally organized in 1950 and is a voluntary, nonprofit, nonpartisan organization of 165 cities, boroughs, and unified municipalities. And whereas AML has affiliate members including the Alaska Conference of Mayors, the Alaska Association of Municipal Clerks, the Alaska Government Finance Officers Association, and the Alaska Municipal Attorneys Association, the Alaska Municipal Management Association, and the Alaska Association of Assessing Officers, some also holding annual conferences this week. And whereas the mission of the Alaska Municipal League is in part to represent the unified voice of Alaska's local governments, to build consensus and partnerships, and to provide training and services to strengthen Alaska's local governments. And whereas the AML's 73rd Annual Local Government Conference will include discussions on tackling affordable housing, local government strategic planning, Alaska's National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, among many other topics and challenges that local governments are facing, while still providing basic services throughout Alaska. Now, therefore, the Anchorage Assembly welcomes AML members and affiliates who are participating from all over Alaska in AML's 73rd Annual Local Government Conference, passed and approved by the Anchorage Municipal Assembly on the 5th day of December, 2023.
So before you go, before you go, Nils, I just would note that it was the intention to add the mayor as a sponsor, and it has been done. So this is unanimous across the dais. So Nils, welcome. You have the floor.
Thank you, Assembly members, Mayor. Such a pleasure to be here finally. I know that the Assembly has adopted a similar resolution in prior years, and we've invited the Assembly to present that to AML members where we've attended, and appreciated your continued support. AML is so excited to always to come back to Anchorage to bring together 1,000 municipal officials from across the state who can come together, learn from each other, share, and ultimately work to improve conditions in their communities. And I'll say, just in being here tonight, such an honor to follow the resolution presented to Jane in honor of Vic Fisher, the father of Alaska local government in so many ways. AML has an annual award named in his honor, the Vic Fisher Local Government Award for Lifetime Service. And we hold him and that memory of his legacy near and dear to our heart. AML will be here the rest of the week. I think 90 hours of sessions that will communicate best practices and lessons learned and challenges that local governments experience across Alaska, from so many of our smaller and rural communities to our largest. And we're grateful for the continued membership of the Anchorage Assembly and the municipality of Anchorage, such a great partnership that we've been able to establish, and recognizing as well as part of AML's governance, we have a high population seat that the Anchorage Assembly fills each year. So really glad to be here. Thank you so much again for a resolution welcoming us. We're glad to be in Anchorage. Thanks.
Thank you. I do have someone in the queue. Mr. Rivera.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to also extend my welcome to everyone in Anchorage for this week for the conference. So tomorrow begins the big conference, although I hope that some of the new members got a chance to go to the newly elected officials conference on Monday. If you didn't, I understand that perhaps some of the slides and information will be shared, but it's always a lot of great information. I remember going to that when I first got elected in 2017. As the hosts, I want to encourage my colleagues, the mayor, and other members of the administration to come to as many sessions of the conference as possible, but I especially want to highlight and encourage everyone to attend the community block party that's happening tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. at the Denina. So if you can't go to all the other sessions, I hope that everyone will go 5:30 p.m. tomorrow to the Denina. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Nils. All right, next on the agenda, we have item 10B4, Resolution AR 2023-422, a resolution of the Anchorage Assembly adopting the 2024 state legislative program for the municipality of Anchorage. Ms. Brawley.
Yes, move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Brawley, seconded by Mr. Volland. Ms. Brawley.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, we do have 2 amendments to dispatch with, and I also have some kind of opening comments, so I'm not sure which is, I believe we need to start with the amendment. So I will move.
Elected leaders hold immense power to save Palestinian lives. The majority of the world and the majority of Americans
Ma'am, you are out of order.
of occupied Palestine. Millions
Please
of
pause the
people
meeting.
worldwide, including hundreds of Alaskans,
You're creating a disturbance.
you are disturbing with your silence.
Security. 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 It's time.
Anchorage has the ability to influence the state of Alaska. Delegation to call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire to stop the violence. For the delivery and accurate humanitarian aid for the Palestinian people without delay in order to prevent the loss of hundreds of thousands of more lives.
You are all out of order. We'll now adjourn to our lunch. Security, would you clear the chamber?